What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be making a full review for the Romancing Festival Albert's banner that brings Albert, a sword user that works both in farming and in boss fights with very interesting cycles. Then we have two bow users, Jamil and Claudia. Both were designed for Remembrance, but Claudia also works super well for farming, while Jamil is locked as a debuff type that will work mostly on Remembrance. And then we have Sif, a damage dealer that was designed for Remembrance, but also hard fights. Well, let's start talking about Albert. He gives a name to the banner, and it's probably the start of it as well. He is a hybrid. That means that he needs STR, Agility, Intelligence, and even Dexterity. Well, his Dexterity is not so high. His Endurance and Will took a hit because he needed other status. So at least he has one damage reduction passive. His first passive is called Conquest 2, STR and Intelligence. When he lands an attack, he buffs his own STR and Intelligence by 15%. Well, in the past, characters will only have this as a passive. But now, Albert has another effect. When he kills a target, he recovers his own BP by 5. This is something interesting that will allow him to farm like Bertrand in some cases. We will discuss this more later. The second one is called Strengthened Energy Tree. Attack damage increases by 10% and starts the fight with 13 BP. And he also has high protect tension that decreases damage received by 30, increases damage potential by 20. Albert only has 30% damage passives. This is not much of a problem in current days because we can get more than 100% damage passives from a weapon, and because he self-buffs, he will be stronger as long as the fight goes. And in farming scenarios, well, he also has something else going for him. For skills, the first one is called Defensive Sword. It's a free skill, slash, just a little stronger than a normal attack that gives him guard up small. That decreases damage by 12% and lasts for 2 turns. Well, this is not that important, but it helps him receive less damage. But all honestly, you are better off inheriting from his last Platinum style the attack called Gleaming Slash. That's also free, has the same power, but instead it buffs his STR by up to 25% on max level. Now, the second skill is called Shining Squall. For 8 PP, he has a spell that deals slash and sun damage with B power 21 mod. This is the start of the B power, so it's not that strong, and when the attack lands, there's a chance to debuff intelligence of the enemies by 15%. We have cheaper intelligence debuff attacks in many other characters, especially in Nacelus, and this is more about the damage. And let me tell you, you can use this for farming scenarios. If you have someone else that uses fast attacks, he can kill the enemies, get 5 BP back, and keep casting this spell. But he does not work by himself. He will not be killing waves with such a weak attack. Now, the last one is called Left Fork. For 13 BP, you have a single target attack that hits 5 times. Yeah, 5 times with E power. But the thing is, with each hit, he'll buff his own STR and Intelligence by up to 25% on max level. This is amazing. Why? Because he already buffs his STR and Intelligence with the first hit. So, it's 5, right? At the start of the second hit, he will have 15% from the Conquest passive, and then 25 from the first hit. The second hit will do substantially more damage, and then each new hit will buff 25%, so that the damage is amazing. And as it is, Left Fork will be one of the strongest attacks in the game, and you can use it on turn 1. It starts with 13 BP. We can compare this to Triple Crush from Young Gustav. Remember? He attacks 3 times with A power. We are attacking 5 times with E power, but because of the STR buffs, the damage scales super well. So, there's a lot of things to say about this Albert because of the BP generation when he kills a target. I already said that he can keep casting Shining Squall if he kills targets. But what about Left Fork? Well, if you are in a wave that has 2 enemies, let's say that they are weak to Slash, well, you use Left Fork, and then you can probably kill one of the targets with 3 hits of Left Fork. The first 3 hits are a little weaker. It will still do plenty of damage, like 150,000 or more with a Remembrance's Word. And then the last 2 hits will do around the same because you are with a higher STR. If you kill both enemies, he will trigger his BP passive twice, regaining 10 BP back. This will allow him to just use left fork again on the next wave. So this happens with Halloween Silver. This was actually a surprise. I still remember that Doze told me that because of Acrobatic Thunder being the same case, and she only recovers 3 BP. But in some scenarios where you use a big nuke first and then use, let's say, Albert to finish the small enemies, you will regain plenty of BP because left fork will change focus once it kills one target. So it's something interesting to say because we have some characters that can solo content and Albert will be one. If you have a story stage with 2 enemies, he will probably be able to solo if they are weak to slash. On neutral, I'm not so sure, I will have to test it out. There is another utility for this Albert. He has very high intelligence. By being a hybrid, he will be capable of inheriting from the Rewards of the Trials style, Victor's Blade, and instant kill 3 times in a row. I have to say that this strategy is kinda long gone, and there is now another contender for that as well. That one being Global Axe Darkit. He can use Fatal Trap 3 times in a row, but Darkit does have a little less intelligence than Albert. But if you don't have Darkit, then getting Albert will be even more interesting for you. Another inheritance will come from his other Platinum style called With Entrusted Hopes. You can inherit Celestial Blade. This is a 12 VP attack with Slash and Sun. It's double S power, but it comes pretty close to triple S, and it will always recover the user BP by 5. He will get another 5 if he kills a target with this attack. It's not so likely to happen because this attack is not that strong, but I saw JP videos where people using him just like this, and you can leave left fork on 14, and he will be able to use Celestial Blade 2 times, and then on the 3rd wave he will be able to use left fork. That is 4 waves where you only have 1 enemy, so he will be able to solo farm too. And if the last enemy has higher amount of HP, that will work even better to kill, because left fork will be stronger. Again, this is not something that will happen all the time, just to explain the different utilities of the character. Now, yet another interesting inheritance comes from his S style. Shimmering Slash can be amplified into the Plus version, becoming a fast attack that hits for roll, with triple S power and 70 mod. That's actually pretty powerful, even critical against humans. And what's so good about it? If he kills at least 1 target in the first wave, he will be able to use that attack again on wave number 3. So in story farming, you can bring Albert to kill 2 waves and then someone to kill the 2nd wave. There are plenty of other characters that will be strong enough to cover for Albert. So, well, as long as the game keeps releasing more content with enemies with plenty of HP, then Albert will still be useful because of such a powerful attack. One more inheritance comes from his A style. You can amplify Mirage Blade, so it becomes Mirage Blade Plus, and you can use it instead of Shining Squall. It will be a physical attack, but you lose the Ollie element. But if you kill a target, again, you get 5 VP. You can keep using this skill as much as you want. Okay, we know that Albert is very good for farming, but what about his boss design? Well, it's actually pretty good. You can go for his last Platinum style with Entrusted Hopes and inherit Gleaming Slash. You start the fight with 13 BP, so you use Gleaming Slash on turn 1, then again on turn 2. By this point, you buffed yourself 2 times with Gleaming Slash and also 2 times with his passive called Conquest 2, right? So 4 buffs. 2 with 15%, 2 with 25%. Then by turn 3, you're gonna use left fork because you now have 19 BP. It's time to discharge something. And this attack will do plenty of damage and buff himself 5 times here, and again 1 time by passive. So damage will scale super well. He's gonna do something like 350,000 damage easily. If you have many other buffers, even more than that. Then by turn 4, you'll be left with 9 BP. That means that you need 4 BP in order to cast another left fork. But let's say you are bringing someone that gives at least 1 BP to their party. Maybe iToken. iToken works super well with Albert because iToken buffs with a fast. So he's gonna also give BP with a chance with his passive skill. And then by turn 5, let's say you have that 13 BP. You're gonna use left fork by the 2nd time. And now you have the combination of many buffs to make the second left fork super explosive. You will only lose buffs from turn 1. Why? Remember, buffs have decay. They have 100% on turn 1, 70% on turn 2, 50% on turn 3, 25% by turn 4, and then they disappear on the start of turn 5. So you have 4 stacks of Conquest, you have 2 stacks of Gleaming Slash, and 1 stack of left fork buffs. So the second left fork will do more than 500,000 damage, and I'm not even considering other buffers. So if you want to bring a squad to kill a boss in 5 turns, Albert may be an interesting idea if the enemy is weak to slash only. Well, for neutral damage, I don't think this will be so good, but it's something to consider. And like I said, left fork is just so good that will also help him on farming. If there's 2 enemies, Albert's gonna do plenty of damage. And in this event, Albert also gets a dedicated weapon that you can forge, but if you have the Remembrance Sword, then that one will make Albert even better. So I really like this Albert's design. He works on many different scenarios. He will be a very good farmer. He will also work in boss fights, especially on Remembrance. He may be your strongest damage dealer there. But yeah, you still have Polka as a very strong tank that deals damage and heals, but they work super well together as well. And, well, I do believe that he deserves at least a SS plus grade. Well, he's still not a necessity. If you have Leon, I believe that you can do the same things as Albert for boss fights, because Leon covers for slash as well. That's why Chooser was easier to recommend, because Chooser can do Pierce or Global Axe Silver, that can do some damage. But again, if the fight can be solved in 5 turns, then why not try something else? And one last thing, all the skills that I talked for Inheritance comes from free styles that you can find on Platinum Banner, so it's pretty easy to build Albert with just 1 premium summon. You don't have any future versions of Albert on JP as far as we go, but he's a protagonist. He's pretty much a safe contestant for new styles. Next style is Tight Space Advantage Jamil. He is a bow user now, in a hybrid one, but by being bow user, he benefits from inheritances of rapier skills, or he can pass on his bow attacks into his rapier version, something that we'll be discussing here. Well, he is a hybrid, not by casting spells, but actually because he's a debuffer. He needs intelligence as well, so we have average values for dexterity, agility, and intelligence as a focus. He does have an okay will, but low endurance, kinda like Albert. For passives, we have Impair 2 Dex. When he lands an attack, he has a 37% chance to debuff the enemy's dexterity by 20%. He also has a 37% chance to recover his own BP by 2 points. Then the second passive is called Confusion Practice 2. 37% chance to apply confusion to a target. Confusion lasts for 4 turns, and again, another 37% chance to recover his own BP by 2. So he has 2 separate chances of 37% to get 2 BP. When all things considered, Jamie will be recovering 1.5 BP per turn on average, but if you are very lucky, you can get even more than that. The third passive is called Great Block Tension. Decreases damage taken by 25 and increases damage done by 30%. And it's his only damage passive, good enough for what he was made of. He's more of a utility character than damage dealer. Well, skill number 1 is called Twin Arrows Plus. For 3 BP, you have a 2-hit attack with E-powered pierce damage that will also recover his own HP with each hit by around 160 for a total of 320 on current game. Well, when you consider both hits with a forged weapon, you have an average of 8 power. 8 power for 3 BP is actually pretty nice, and he can keep using this as long as he wants since it's only 3 BP. Then the second skill is called Maiming Volley. With 6 BP, you have a full AoE attack with only Deep Power and 13 mod. It's not strong, it's not made for damage, but it has a chance to debuff agility from enemies by 15% on max rank, and also a chance to inflict stun. The chance is the lowest possible, but his intelligence is good enough that he may be able to stun and debuff agility most of the time. Well, when you want to stun, debuff agility makes sense, because if the enemy attacks before you, stunning makes no sense. It's good because it's AoE, but 6 BP means that he will not be able to keep using this constantly, but at least 3 times in a row on average you will be able to use. And the last attack is called a cumulative shot. It's a triple S attack with pierce damage that will buff his dexterity by 30% and then has a chance to debuff the dexterity from the enemy by 20 if you have max rank. Well, you do have a chance to debuff dexterity by 40% if your passive triggers on turn 1. Debuffing dexterity by 40% will be very helpful if your enemy uses dexterity based attacks. If you have someone else buffing your agility, you can start trying an agility cheese right from the start. That is if your boss does not have the fire weakness. If it does have the fire weaknesses, if you debuff it too much, it will totally trigger the cleanse effect and you will lose all your debuffs. That's why debuff strategies are not that important anymore. And if you have Bokon, you are probably well served with dexterity debuffs or even beauty. Those characters can keep debuffing dexterity every turn, while Jamil relies more on luck. After you use one accumulative shot, you are either using normal attacks or twin arrows to keep the damage and the heal, and then accumulative shot again only when you have triggered your BP passives to have 10 BP. Okay, then for inheritance we can go for his last version, and you have Lady Step, a 4 BP skill that casts Charm. That will be useful for the next Remembrance battle where you can inflict either Charm or Confusion. This will be nice, it's fast, and will also give Morale Up Small, that increases damage by 15%, and Guard Up Small, that decreases damage received by 12%. You can keep casting this more often because you usually get at least 1 BP per turn on average. So the Bow Remembrance is still kinda hard, giving Guard Up and Morale Up may help, right? You can also inherit Streaming Pierce. This is a roll attack with S power that deals Pierce and Slash. Can be used for farming, can be used for Death Master if you haven't cleared that Remembrance battle yet. Or Floral Cracker, you can inherit this and use on average of once every 2 turns. This buffs Pierce attack by 35. If you have someone else in your party that deals more damage, then that can benefit. You can also get from his UDX style Stingray Plus to use this 3 times in a row. It's not that strong, you still need a partner in order for farming. Or from his Tower style, you have Floral Extravaganza. This is an attack that can instant kill. If there's only one enemy and you can use this 2 times in a row, well, he can instant kill just fine. You can also inflict poison just fine with 4 BP. Or he can also use Feint, a 2 BP skill that has medium chance to stun. He will be able to lock an enemy with stun, and this one is cheaper than his AoE attack. And the last thing, in the future, the Surf Cyclone skill from his Summer style will be amplified, and it's a fast attack that can inflict stun. We already have Shira that can use it 2 times in a row, but, well, Jamil may help with some very dedicated challenges if you need to stun by turn 1. Well, Jamil is too much of a specialist, extremely niche, but can work on Remembrance as a filler. And you can pass twin arrows for his Rapier style to get better damage. Remember that this style has Scrum Guard, decreasing damage taken to the party by 20% as long as everyone is alive. Or you can use him as a sustain character that takes lower damage than some other bow users and can keep healing himself by casting twin arrows. But the character itself is pretty passable, he's not that strong, and well, he's only gonna take an SS minus grade in that tier list. And the next style is Claudia, what I must protect. We have plenty of different styles of Claudia, you can see here, but she is now more of a farmer, but can also work fine for Remembrance, especially because of the skills she has access to. Well, very big focus on dexterity, but also big agility because farmers need those 2 things. Her endurance is okay, will a little better, and her intelligence is 75 because she can use some debuff from inheritance. Well, the first skill is called Active Momentum 2, Dexterity. She will always trigger Morale Up on the start of a turn, medium effect, that means 25% damage increase, and will buff her Dexterity by 15%, so this was made for farming. And Conviction gets her 4 BP per turn, and she starts the fight with 12. This is nice because it allows the usage of 2 skills with 8 BP cost in a row. Then we have Fired Up 7, increasing damage by 40%. Well, we have actually 65% if you consider morale up, and buffing dexterity before attacking actually matters a lot, now that we have strong weapons. For skills, we have Focus Fire, a 0 BP skill that is actually pretty nice. 9 mod, pretty close to D, and buffs her dexterity by 25% on max level. So she can use this to stack 2 dexterity buffs on a turn, and then choose when she wants to nuke an enemy. The second skill is called Skyfall, and it hits for a column of enemies with triple S power. Very strong, but by costing 9 BP, she cannot use it 2 times in a row, only on turn 1 and then again on turn 3. But, well, you can fix that by bringing Anya to the party. She will give her the remaining BP she needs, and she can probably solo farm some events with such amount of power. If you skip it Darked, this call it Reviving the Guild, and you don't have access to Bloody Harvest, this is your chance to have a very strong pierce attack that lands column. And, well, after that we have the skill called Dream Fantasy Shot, a 16 BP attack that hits all enemies for triple S power. That is amazing. It was buffed because in JP is only double S, but it makes sense because this is the same type of attack that Leonard has access to, but in his case it's just slash. Floating Juggernaut costs the same and has triple S power as well, so it's just a counterpart with a different element. So far we have a single target attack that buffs dexterity, a column attack, and a very powerful full AoE. As for inheritance, we have plenty. From her A style there is Twin Arrows, so this hits 2 times for around 8 power and will heal her for more than 300, but she may need a better heal attack. Coming from her global axe, you can get Healing Arrow to heal more than 800. In Remembrance, this helps her to stay alive. There is also Flicking Lanterns. This is full AoE attack that can inflict charm, and she can use this on turn 1 and then again on turn 3. You can use it for farming, but also on the next Remembrance where we need to inflict charm. You can also inherit from her a summer style, 1000 Needles Plus. In the future, this will become a double S power attack with only 6 BP cost. There is also Lacerate, row attack that can be used by wave 1 and wave 3, but it's not that strong. And Reverie Shot, this is a 3-hit attack that hits for power 17 mod and translates into a 4S attack, and since she buffs before she attacks, the damage will be actually pretty strong, and you can use it again by turn 3. And the last that matters comes from either her tower or first platinum style. Assassin's Arrow Plus is a fast attack. She can use this against the Wyvern. Using fast attacks will allow you to do pretty good damage there. If you want to bring her on Remembrance, it's better if you have at least a global axe style, but the A style already works by healing a little with Twin Arrows, and then when you need to nuke, you're going to use the Skyfall attack. Makes sense to use it as a single target as well, since it's triple S for 9 BP. So Claudia can be a pretty strong damage dealer, but also very fragile. I don't think you're gonna use her on real hard challenges because she would take so much damage there. Well, you can even heal with an attack, but if you don't have damage reduction passives, the boss will always do more damage towards that character, and some nukes may just kill her. While on Remembrance you don't have many options. Claudia can be your main damage dealer for bow, but besides, I don't think you'll be using her in other boss fights. Still, she works well for farming and will help many people having difficulty with bows, but she's going to take a standard double S grade. Can be skipped if you don't want to summon now. Well, JP has another version of Claudia, still does not have damage reduction passive, was made for damage. She has a support skill that increases her damage by a lot, applying many different effects, has a 8 BP row attack that can be used twice by the current version, and a nuke attack that heals her for plenty of HP. So it just complements the character, but design is the same. She still takes a lot of damage and is a little risky, but works on Remembrance. And the last character is Sif, Monster's Liahead. She's an Axe user and we need more for Remembrance. She has 117 STR, that's the highest value we have in the game. She has also very high endurance and will, and a good agility as well. and she needed a little intelligence because of some special effects, nothing important, but she didn't take a big hit on status retribution. She actually has a very good one. For passives, we have Overshift 4. On the start of a turn, if her OD is full, she will grant herself a morale up that increases damage by 40%. It lasts for only one turn, so only to get increased damage in overdrive turns. If her overdrive gauge is not full, then she grants herself a guard up medium, decreasing damage by 25% for one turn. This will act as her damage reduction passive. Bad thing is that this will not stack with other guard ups, so you need to see which characters you are bringing alongside Sif. The second passive is called Healing War Song Defense. On the end of a turn, she gets 15 points of overdrive gauge. Remember, you need 100 points to get to overdrive. When you use normal attacks, you get 25 points, and when you get hit, you get 8 points. That means that Sif will always get into overdrive at least every 3 turns. More into that later. And when she attacks on overdrive, well, she will have this morale up triggered on the start of a turn and will apply guard up medium to the party, decreasing damage by 25%, lasting for 2 turns, and will recover all surviving allies' HP by very small effect. That will be around 160, her love is low, and well, sadly it's not the same value as time. Time is healing for 1000 now, because of his status and healing much more. But, well, we barely have any sort of support for Axes, this will kinda help anyway. So, when she is on overdrive, she will get even more damage because of great overtension. When getting 30% at all times, 45% on combos, and 60% on overdrive. That means that in overdrive, she actually has 100% damage increase. But in all other times, that's it. Just that. So as a farmer, she's not that good. She was made for boss fights. It's also worth to say that once you get to overdrive, you have to use it instantly, or else you'll be left without any guard up. You lose it when you have full overdrive, but you reapply by the overdrive attack. For skills, we have Smash Strike. For free, you have a skill that hits for Slash and Blunt with 8 mod. That means it's a little higher than a normal attack. Good because it will allow her to choose either slash or blunt as damage, and having double elements means you are likely to hit at least neutral. The second skill is Heartcracker Plus, a fully UE attack with 5 EP cost, hits for slash and blunt, and has a medium chance to apply stun. And by being only 5 means that she can use this 3 times in a row, just fine, but her intelligence is not good enough to, well, stun most targets. Will work when we get more Remembrance stage against Kazinsi though. Then skill number 3 is Skydive Plus, 9 BP cost for triple S damage with slash and blunt, and will also increase all surviving allies overdrive gauge by 15 points. What is good about this is that you can start the fight and use Skydrive right from the turn 1, and then you will get 15 points of overdrive, and she will also get 15 points on the end. So if she gets hit, each hit will give her 8 points. That means that sometimes by turn 2 you get into overdrive to cast that guard up medium. That actually helps. Now for inheritance, the best one comes from her school style. In the latest update, they added Whale Plus, a 5 VP roll attack that lands slash and blunt damage and will also buff 2 different status, STR and Will, by 25%. This is actually awesome, one offensive and one defensive status. If you need to do bigger damage and also resist ailments or magical attacks on the same time, this is a very good idea. Remember that Matriarch buffs STR, Endurance, Agility, and Intelligence, or Dexterity, Will, Love, and Charisma. So status that clash with her buffs, Sif brings to complement if you need to do physical damage with STR-based styles, but also receive less magical damage or protect yourself against debuffs or ailments. And she can use this 3 times in a row. And after that, 5 EP is not exactly that costly. You will be able to use at least once every 2 turns, and eventually you have enough to use it 2 times again. We kinda can compare the skill damage to Udon. Latest style has Lantern Path, 5 DP, A power, double element. See how it's good to have two different effects without increasing the cost. A very nice skill. Then in the future you will be able to amplify Yo-Yo. It will become a double hit attack with E power, but it buffs her SDR with each hit. She can use this as her main skill to just keep buffing herself and do more damage over turns. There is also Mountain Cross, a triple S attack with STR and Dexterity buff, but it's just too costly, but it's fast. It may help against the Wyvern. But now that we saw everything, the Sif brings utility more because of that STR and wheel buff. If you have access to the teacher version, I believe that it becomes a much better style. But we should also talk about how will she complement other styles. And in this case, we need to discuss Time, a very good style in the game used for hard challenges. You could say that they clash together, but not exactly. Well, when you start the fight, you want to use Kalros with your Time, because it casts Guard Up Medium, decreasing damage by 25% and buffing 4 different status to receive less damage. And then in 2 turns, Time will likely get into overdrive. And if you use Skydrive with Sif, it's a guarantee that he will enter overdrive by the end of the second turn. On turn 3, you want to trigger Time's friends. He needs to use either a normal attack or Uncle Taco Toolbox. He can use any, but if he uses Uncle Taco Toolbox, he will use all of his BP. So, let's say you want to use Uncle Taco Toolbox to buff Morale up for 3 turns as well. Nice. Then you will not have Guard Up, because the effect weared off. But if your Sif entered overdrive as well, she will trigger the Guard Up Medium covering when Time does not have the effect active. So after that effect is weared off, well, you can get Time to use Kalros again. He will be using that by turn 5, and then on turn 6 he will just use Uncle Taco Toolbox again. So you keep the Guard Up cycle, and if you do not need a second healer like Polka, then bringing Sif makes sense because she's buffing STR and Will. If you have the school version, see, she can complement, she can actually work besides Remembrance fights. It's not something that will really change how we fight against hard challenges, but adds something new for those that use Time and wants to, well, take even more advantage of having Guard Up effective all time, and also have someone that can keep buffing Will as well. So, well, Sif is better than expected. I still don't think that she's game changing. I don't know if she's enough to give you a clear of stage 20 without Darius or Ogniyama, but maybe. And she is good enough to receive an SS plus grade in our tier list. Now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? Well, yes, but it's not that important. You can still skip if you don't have gens, or at least wait 1 week. The banner itself will receive a silver award. I believe that Albert and Sif are the most interesting characters, although Jamil does have cross inheritance with Rapier that can help in Remembrance. Sif is an interesting support unit that can help even outside Remembrance. Albert will work in all different scenarios. Claudia is a farmer and a damage dealer for Remembrance, while Jamil is a Remembrance specialist, but more of a filler. So I'll be pulling because I want to see at least Albert and Sif in action. What about you? Please say here in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links on the description. I hope to see you soon in the next video or live stream. Bye.